we'll call the meeting to order. May we have roll call, please?
Ms. Moore?
Here.
McHale is absent. Pollock?
Here.
Sheridan?
Here.
Mr. Wright is absent. Lopez?
Here.
Young?
Here.
Thank you. If everyone would please check your cell phones, make sure they're turned off. The first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the January 13, 2015 meeting. Do we have a motion?
Motion to accept.
Mr. Lopez, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Sheridan? Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is public comment, and this is the time for anyone from the public who wishes to speak to the board about any item not on tonight's agenda. All of the items that are on our agenda tonight are up for public hearing, and if you're here for one of those, then you'll be allowed to speak at that time. So this is the time for something not on the agenda. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Our next item is resolution number 2960-15, special exception use order for the Dollar General satellite antenna. Is the applicant here? Will you please state your name and address for the record and tell us about your project and why you think we should approve it?
Okay. My name is Nelson Vasquez. I'm project manager with Dollar General. What we're looking at doing is installing a satellite dish at the back of the building. We've been open, I think, now for about 2 years. The satellite's going to be located within the existing enclosure at the back of that building on that photograph. And the enclosed areas around the air conditioning units. And it's a solid vinyl fence. It's solid to 5 foot and with a 2 foot extension on the top, which brings it up to a total of 7 foot. And the height of the dish will not exceed the top of the fence. It's a necessary part of our operations. The VSAT is used basically for large content distribution, multitasking, which accounts for 30 to 40% of the store's traffic. Some of the items distributed are price changes, planograms, learning management systems, and training videos. The diameter of the dish is 3 foot 9 inches, and the top will not exceed the top of the existing fence.
And you said the fence is 7 feet tall?
A total of 7 feet tall. The first 5 foot is solid, and then the additional extension on the top is 2 foot.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the applicant? Mr. Lopez?
You said you were going to put the satellite dish, it won't exceed the height of the fence?
It will not exceed the height of.
So which way is it looking?
Sorry?
How are you going to get a signal to it? Don't you have to have
We had the installers go out and check the direction and the height and everything, and said we would be able to make it work.
on your picture, what part of the fence are you putting it on?
That's a picture for you. Drawing. You can see the circled areas.
Thank you.
We need to keep this for the record.
That'll be fine.
That's all I have.
That photograph for us. If you need as well.
Okay, I have a question. The documentation that we received that's from a Rex Martin dated December 17th, 2013, says that it's an 8-foot, 6-foot solid material and 8 foot high with the lattice. And your satellite's going to be 8 feet.
That was initially, it was changed to drop the pole, length of that pole, we dropped that length down to where the top of the satellite dish would be at the top, even with the top of the fence, and that's where the installers went out there and kind of tested that location to see if it would work for us.
And when was that changed? Okay, well, this is dated May of 13, and this memo is dated December of 13. If it's incorrect, that's fine. I just wondered if there was some reason that it was changed. What you were showing us is the, that I said was dated May 13th. That's Exhibit C.
Yeah, I've got an email just printed out here. I was just sent this stuff October 30th, 2014. Oh, 6 foot tall will be in that. I mean, I can get whatever documentation you need. That'd be no problem from our early department.
Okay, thank you.
I was kind of sent over just to
And-
explain what we're trying to do.
Okay, and the diameter of the dish is 48 inches?
It's 3 foot 9 inches.
Okay. So just under 48 inches then?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions of the applicant? Thank you. May we hear from staff?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is a request for the Planning, Zoning, and Appeals Board to recommend adoption of Resolution Number 2960-15, approving special exception use order number 198-15 to allow the installation of a very small aperture satellite FZAT antenna for the commercial operation of the Dollar General Store located at 800 West Broadway Street, per Section 5.4E2B of the City of Oviedo Land Development Code. The applicant is Dolgan Corp. LLC, and the property owners are Dinan and Wenfeng Sun. Section 5.4E of the LDC provides the types of communication antennas that may be permitted only with a special exception use order in accordance with LDC Section 3.3B. Section 5.4E2B states that installation of a satellite dish and/or antenna greater than 18 inches in diameter within any districts within the city shall require the granting of a special exception use order approved by the City Council. The subject application requests installation of a VSAT antenna with 48 inches, 1.2 meters in diameter, mounted on a pole, thus requiring the consideration of a special exception use order. Special exception use order number 198-15 will allow the installation of a VSAT antenna with a 48-inch diameter mounted on a 6-foot-high metal pole. The proposed pole will be located 24.8 feet north of the south property line and 78.5 feet east of the west property line. You can see all these dimensions called out in the Exhibit 2 of the resolution. Sheet number 2 calls out the exact location of the antenna and the setbacks from the property lines. And sheet number 3 shows the various elevations with the antenna in relation to the height of the existing fence. The outside diameter of the proposed pole is 4.5 inches. The height to the top of the antenna after installation will be approximately 8 feet. And just a clarification, this is based on the technical drawings that were provided, and they are also in your package. The antenna will be located within an existing fence enclosed area, which I mentioned to you early on in my presentation. There are 7 criteria that must be addressed by an applicant for a special exception use order. Staff has reviewed the application and have the following findings. The 7 criteria include land use compatibility, sufficient site size, proper use of mitigative techniques, hazardous waste, compliance and applicable laws and ordinances, and commercial uses in residential districts, and any other additional criteria applicable to the specific land uses. Regarding land use compatibility, the proposed pole with the antenna will be located within an existing fence enclosed area. The fence was originally installed to screen the HVAC units and wall ducts. The height of the fence and top appurtenances exceeds the height of the top of the proposed antenna, as shown in attachment number 2. So according to that to the drawings, it's a little bit higher, the fence, than the antenna. But according to the applicant, as he explained to you, the height can be also put in a different position, can be adjusted. To the south and east of the subject property are public right-of-ways and a parking lot. To the west is an office building, and to the north is Broadway Street, State Road 426. There will be no traffic-generating characteristics, nor will the installation affect land use activities in the immediate vicinity. No off-site impacts are anticipated. The second criteria is the sufficient site size, adequate site specifications, and infrastructure to accommodate the proposed use. The subject property is approximately 0.91 acres, thus the site size and shape are sufficient to support the proposed antenna. The principal use of the site is commercial. This principal use will not be abandoned. The addition of the antenna will not require extra screening, buffers, or off-street parking, and will not affect traffic or pedestrian circulation. Adverse impacts concerning this installation will be minimal. The installation of the antenna will improve the commercial operation of the current business, which is a Dollar General store. The next criteria is proper use of mitigative techniques. The proposed project will not impose any adverse impacts to the adjacent land uses. The pole and antenna will be located approximately 135 feet away from the nearest single-family residential property line, which is to the south and to the east. The antenna will be screened by an existing fence, as you saw in the pictures and also in the drawings. Hazardous waste. The proposed use is not anticipated to produce hazardous waste on the site. Compliance and applicable laws and ordinances. The applicant will comply with all state, county, and city laws and ordinances. This project will adhere to Section 5.4E2B of the current City of Oviedo Land Development Code as it pertains to the installation of a VSAT antenna. Due to the fact that the proposed dish antenna is more than 18 inches in diameter, although proposed to be located in an existing enclosed fence area, the applicant is seeking a special exception use order per LDC Section 5.4E2B. The project will comply with all Federal Communications Commission and Federal Aviation Administration regulations. Upon approval of the special exception use order, a complete State of Florida engineer signed and sealed building permit package will be submitted for review and approval of the building department. Commercial use in residential districts. The proposed VSAT antenna is already located in a designated commercial land use. The service will operate with no impact to traffic, visual compatibility, or natural site conditions. Additional criteria applicable to specific land uses. The applicant is prepared to provide any additional information as required by the city upon request. Attachment number 2 includes the applicant's text addressing the above criteria. And the Development Review Committee considered resolution number 2960-15 at its public meeting on January 29, 2015, and thereat recommended adoption. This item will be considered by City Council on March 2nd, 2015. It is recommended that PZA recommend adoption of Resolution Number 2960-15, approving Special Exception Use Order Number 198-15. This concludes my presentation, and I am available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of staff?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Sheridan?
I'm still a little bit confused on math here, and it should be simple math, but we see in one place that the height at the top of the antenna after installation will be approximately 8 feet. Then we go down into A, land use compatibility. And
Are you
height-
I'm sorry, are you in the staff report?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And first criteria, land use compatibility, and then it talks about the height of the fence exceeds the height of the top of the proposed antenna. But again, going back to applicant's report, the fence is 7 feet, the antenna is 8 feet. We're still missing something somewhere. Are we at 8 feet, or is the fence higher than it says?
Well, if you see attachment number 2
I've
in
seen
your...
the attachment, and I see that the diagram doesn't have the antenna going above, but that doesn't work with the numbers that are talked about in the report.
No, the attachment number Exhibit C, if you look at, it says that there is a 6-foot maximum height of the dish. And then if you count the half of the diameter of the antenna, which is 4 feet almost, it's 3.9, you add 6 plus 2, it's 8. Regarding the height of the fence, I don't have it in here,
It's 7 foot.
but
Or the
it's not, according to the treetop. According to our plans, which was where we approved that, it was, if I recall, 8 feet when I looked at it. So I don't know whether that's different.
Ultimately, I just
No.
want to make sure that, for me, the dish is going to be below the top of the fence height. But the math from the report, again, the height of the top of the antenna after installation will be approximately 8 feet. So from the 7-foot fence, we're still a foot above the top of the fence line.
My comments were based on what was shown on the documents provided by the applicant, as I'm telling you, in Exhibit C, and also by what we had in our construction plans. So I don't have the construction plans here now. Yeah, I mean, I believe that can the applicant
Sure, come back up and state your name again for the record.
Basically, initially, when this first came up, it was, the height of it. And I think what they did, they applied for the ideal, which would be put over the existing fence. But what I was trying to say was that we've gone back and we've checked it, and we can actually make it work by making it the same height as the fence. I mean, if there's an issue for the top of that dish to be exposed above that existing fence, 12 inches, then, that would be ideal for us. But, we could, in order to make this happen, so we get some usage out of that satellite, we'll just have to drop it down where it just does not exceed the top of that fence.
No matter how high the fence is, whether it's 7 or 8.
The fence is 7 foot right now.
Thank you.
Total of 7 foot. You get 5 foot solid and then 2 foot extension on the top of it, as you can see in that picture.
So it's not a 6-foot solid section, it's only 5 feet.
5 foot solid. 2 foot
Okay.
extension on top.
Does that,
7 foot overall height.
okay, does that answer your question, Mr. Sheridan?
More or less. Again, I just want to make sure that that's going to be below the top of the fence line.
Is there an issue with it exceeding the top of the fence by that dish for 12 inches? Is that
I don't know if that's going to make or break, but again, before we were told that it was going to be below, but then when you look at the math in the report, it doesn't work out that way. I just want a straight answer. Is it going to be above or below?
If we can have it above by that foot, that would be ideal for us. If that's going to be a deal breaker, we'll drop it down to where it's exactly, will not exceed the height. So there's some flexibility on our side to try to accommodate, the city's requirements.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Are there any other questions of the staff? Okay, we'll open it up for public hearing. I have one written request. Oh, that was you, Mr. Vasquez. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. What's the board's pleasure?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Lopez, or Mr. Pollack, I'm sorry.
I'd like to recommend approval of Resolution 2960-15, Special Exception Use Order 198-15, as stated with the foot over the fence line.
Okay, is that a motion to recommend approval?
Yeah, motion to recommend approval.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Lopez? Now it's you.
Yeah.
Is there any discussion? I do have a concern for staff in the actual special exception use order that's attached to the resolution. In several places, it refers to the installation of a, quote, very small aperture satellite. It doesn't specify that it's no more than 48 inches. It just says very small. And my concern is very small is relative. What may be very small to me may not be to the next person. And if it's, I know the drawing said 1.2 meters, which I think equals about 48 inches. Our applicant said it was only 3 feet 9 inches. That we specify that it's no more than 48 inches in
Okay.
the special exception use order. Is there some reason why it's not specified, that it's only referred to as very small?
No, it's because the name of this specific antenna is VSAT, very small aperture satellite antenna.
Is there
So
some
that's
reason why?
that's the name that it's referred to, but we can't put that it's with a 48 inches or 3.9 if it's what you are.
I'm sorry, you can't talk from the back of the room.
I'm sorry, I'm not.
Can we say then that it won't exceed the 48 inches? Would that be sufficient
Yeah.
for staff? Mm-hmm. So I see it in two different places, I think, on page 2 of the special exception use order, paragraph 3. And then also paragraph C, order of the city. And both of those, C1, both of those places where it says a very small aperture satellite antenna, if it says after that not to exceed 48 inches.
So it's in section 1. Correct.
Okay, it's at the top of page 2, yeah, it's under findings of fact A3, requested approval. That first line there, after antenna, we'd insert the words not to exceed 48 inches. And then in section C, paragraph 1, the second line, again, where it says the name of the satellite, and then not to exceed 48 inches. That would be sufficient for staff?
Yes.
Okay. I think that would
Yeah, this will be incorporated into the staff report and the documents that will be sent to City Council.
Okay. We have before us a motion to approve it as it's stated. Is there any discussion about the verbiage that I've suggested go in the special exception use order?
Yeah, that is. Do we want to vote on this one?
We'll have to vote on the motion before us, and if it fails, then we can vote on adding this additional language. Okay, so the motion before us at this point is to approve the resolution, to approve the motion to recommend approval of the resolution as it's stated. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay? Nay. Motion fails. Okay, now do we have another motion for the board?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion for resolution, to adopt resolution, what is it again? I gotta get my numbers again.
Here it is.
Resolution 2960-15, that the dish will not exceed any larger than 48 inches in diameter, and that it will be, you say 18 inches above the fence line? 12 inches above the fence line.
Or no more than 8 feet
Right.
high, no matter how high the fence is.
Correct.
So no more than a total of 8 feet tall.
Okay. I'll second that.
Mr. Pollack, thank you. Is there any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, this item will be considered by the City Council at which meeting? Jenna? I'm sorry, when will the City Council consider this?
March 2nd.
March 2nd. March 2nd at 6:30 in these chambers. Good luck to you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is ordinance number 1616, the comp plan amendment. Do we have an applicant? You state your name and address for the record.
Certainly. Elliot Smith, Rogers Towers, 201 South Orange Avenue, Orlando. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Lisa Combs. Madam Chair, if you don't mind, I would like to do a combined presentation of the comprehensive plan amendment application and item, which is the zoning map amendment application.
That's fine.
Walk you through the entire project so you can get a good scope of what we're talking about.
Yes.
With me today are Jeremy Camp and Dallas Dawson from Beaver Homes, who are the contract purchaser of the property. Chad Morehouse from Madden Morehouse and Blunt, which is our project civil engineer. And also Dave Axel, who is here, he's the seller. smaller than 10 acres in size, the local government official. Application before you today, in your package. Again, if you look in your staff report, it looks in the document called Comprehensive Plan Amendment. There is an existing future land use map, which shows in red as commercial, and then it shows the properties to the north and east, and that in red all are commercial. What is planned development? Note on that map, it also gives you page 20. The southwest and even the south, what you see on the map. Also, in the city files, we provided a traffic study, and the traffic study shows no adverse impact on area road. We provided an environmental study. County School District saying there's adequate school capacity. And summary encapsulates the comprehensive plan amendment. We're asking to rezone from, again, from history development. There is an accompanying development agreement with a conceptual development plan, which provides development plans as well. And you will see supplemental, we actually went to DRC for the first time on January 25th. And so there should be an updated development agreement in the package that provides a couple of updates with respect to landscaping. Rather than providing that feature. And so that document is in final form. We agree with staff and the DRC. Parking lots primarily adjacent to this property. We believe setbacks and signage and all that good stuff in the development agreement, and so we can answer any questions you might have on that agreement or the plan. Both of these, the comprehensive plan amendment application and the proposed rezoning. You have a staff recommendation. I'll be quiet and answer whatever questions you might have. And then,
Thank you. Are there any questions of the applicant? Thank you. May we hear from staff?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is a request to amend this, if it's okay with the board, if I can do both presentations at the same time?
Yes, please.
Okay. This is a request to amend the city's comprehensive plan, future land use map, to change the future land use designation of approximately 8.7 acres from commercial to medium-density residential future land use designation. The subject property is located approximately 455 feet west of Alafaya Trail and on the north side of Dr. Edward Stoner Way. The applicant is Ellen Avery Smith. Comprehensive Plan Policy 1-1.1.4 requires the city to evaluate criteria when considering a comprehensive plan future land use map amendment request. This criteria is found in your staff report, and the results of the criteria is also found in your staff report. The subject amendment qualifies as what's called a small-scale future land use map amendment. Small-scale future land use amendments require one public hearing before the Planning, Zoning, and Appeals Board and one adoption hearing before the City Council. It becomes effective 31 days after City Council adopts, provided that no one appeals the adoption. The applicant intends to construct approximately 70 townhome units. When staff analyzed the proposed comprehensive plan amendment request from commercial to medium-density residential, staff recognized the city's goals to maintain its non-residential future land use designation to sustain its tax base. Staff reviewed the request to change the future land use designation based on the city's comprehensive plan and on the city's tax base. I'd like to draw your attention to the policy. It's objective 1-2.1, and it says to attract high-quality, high-value industries and businesses to appropriate areas, including but not limited to State Road 417, Central Florida Greenway Corridor, Alafaya Trail, downtown, and Westgate areas as defined in the Strategic Economic Development Plan for the City of Oviedo. And then if you look at policy 1-2.1.1, it says the city shall ensure that the designation of lands on the future land use map is compatible with, allows, and encourages the full range of uses required to support and implement economic development in appropriate locations. And there are several locations, appropriate locations within the city where the comprehensive plan directs high-quality, high-value industries and businesses. These areas include Seminole Way, which is the area of State Road 417, Central Florida Greenway Corridor, Westgate area, which is the area on the west side of Broadway, or County Road 426, State Road 426. You have the Gateway Districts, which includes the East Gateway District and Marketplace Gateway District, and development corridors, as well as the downtown. The subject property is not located within one of the above targeted areas. It's located due west and adjacent to a development corridor along Alafaya Trail. The subject property is on the south side of Sureguard, on the west side of Auto Nation Collision Center, and on the north side of Arborview Townhomes, and on the east side of Copper Chase Townhomes. The subject property is surrounded by both commercial to its north and east side and townhome uses to its west and south side. The proposed use of the subject property as townhomes is consistent and compatible to its surrounding uses. The subject property has been designated with the commercial future land use since 1977, where it has remained undeveloped. The subject property is situated approximately 455 feet west of Alafaya Trail on Dr. Edward Stoner Way, a local street with no visibility from Alafaya Trail. The city's economic development liaison, John Jones, with Little John Engineering, performed an analysis on the impact of the change in the future land use designation on the city's tax base. The financial impact analyzed 4 alternative development scenarios, and those scenarios are provided in your supporting data inventory and analysis. The summary of it is, Scenario 1 was the existing vacant commercial. Scenario 2 was the developed commercial based on a 191,359 square foot commercial space developed at $51.50 per square feet. Scenario 3 was developed residential with 70 townhome units with an average sales price of $209,000. And Scenario 4 was the vacant medium-density residential land. The analysis shows that under the vacant land scenarios, which would be Scenario 1 and 4, vacant medium-density residential generates $7,328 more in ad valorem revenues than vacant commercial. Under the development scenarios, which would be Scenario 2 and 3, using a conservative estimate for the average sales price of a townhome unit, if completely developed by the year 2020, the 70 townhome units will generate $1,206 more in ad valorem taxes than if a fully developed 191,359 square foot commercial use. Staff recommends adoption of Ordinance 1616 based on findings that's provided in your staff report. The first being the proposed comprehensive plan, future land use map amendment, is compatible with the surrounding future land use designation. The proposed comprehensive future land use map amendment is consistent with the comprehensive plan policies. The subject property is not located within a targeted area where the comprehensive plan directs high-quality, high-value industries and businesses. The proposed comprehensive plan future land use map amendment and proposed development will generate more ad valorem revenues than commercial. The DRC considered the subject future land use map amendment at its Thursday, January 29, 2015 meeting, and thereat recommended adoption of the comprehensive plan, which is ordinance number 1616. And it is recommended that the PZA recommend adoption of ordinance 1616. In terms of the change of zoning, it's a request from the applicant to change the zoning of the same property from C2, which is commercial, to PUD, planned unit development. The applicant wishes to designate the subject property with a PUD zoning district consistent with the proposed medium-density residential future land use designation. Land Development Code Section 4.6 C and D require the review and approval of a development agreement and a conceptual development plan with the PUD zoning map amendment. The Land Development Code also requires a development agreement be included as an exhibit in any ordinance adopting an amendment to the official zoning map, which changes the zoning of a property to PUD. The applicant has submitted a development agreement and conceptual development plan for inclusion into Ordinance 1617. The DRC considered Ordinance 1617 on Thursday, January 29th, and thereat continued consideration of the ordinance to February 5th. At the DRC meeting, the continuance was based on landscaping. We have provided for you the update of the DRC meeting, which was provided to you on the dais. It was emailed yesterday, and then it's provided on the dais tonight. So on February 5th, 2015, the DRC considered Ordinance 1617. The DRC recommended adoption with changes, and those changes are outlined in your summary on the dais. The applicant concurs with the DRC's recommendation, and the development agreement that is attached to the memo is the updated development agreement. It is recommended that the Planning, Zoning, and Appeals Board recommend adoption of the revised development agreement that is provided to you on your dais. So it's recommended that PZA recommend adoption of Ordinance 1617 with the revised development agreement as recommended by the DRC. This concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Are there questions of staff?
Madam Chair, I have a question, and it may just be a clarification on my part, but I noticed in the developer's agreement and other areas it says there's no wetlands on the property. Looking at the survey, it appears that the upland area has been outlined, but as far as the property goes, the appraisers has it at 14.12 acres. So are we currently in a lot split situation, or?
Yes, the applicant has, the total property is about 14 acres. In order to keep it at a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment, the applicant carved out the wetland area. The upland buffer is still a part of the application, so it took it down to a little over 8 acres for the amendment. The wetland area will not be used. There will be no clearing. Nothing on that wetland property will be used for this development.
Are there any other questions of staff? Okay, we'll open it up for public hearing. I have 2 written requests. One is from Andrew Valentine. Please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Valentine. My address is 422 Woodward Place. I am the president of Cover Chase. My concern was on the transportation aspect. The study referenced indicated that area roads would be affected or minimally affected. However, the way that that particular area is set up, there's only one road. My concern would be whether or not my concern really is on traffic. As it is, the only way to get in from northbound, like going northbound. Additionally, coming south. That's really my comments on it. I think we're probably more.
Thank you. The other request I have is from Louis Soto. You state your name and address for the record, please.
Right now, people safety vehicles, fire trucks, that sort of thing, now.
I have a question. Are you talking about people from your neighborhood are parking on Edward Stoner Way now?
From my neighborhood, I'm guessing people from the other neighborhood, on the other side, because I've seen some of those fences. The backyard, so, and others may be parking out there. So, if this new development doesn't have enough parking, visitors, guests, start parking outside.
Okay, thank you. That's all of the written requests that I have. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. What's the board's pleasure? Mr. Lopez?
To adopt ordinance 1617 as recommended by staff.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Are we going in order?
Yeah, that's right, I'm sorry.
Yes, we need to do the first one. 1616, the comp plan
1616,
amendment. So is your motion to recommend approval of 1616?
Correct.
Okay.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Okay, is there any discussion? I'll direct a question to staff. I know I saw in the report, I guess it may come up in the next one regarding zoning about there had to be 2 parking places, I think, for each townhome. At what point would we address parking issues if it's not addressed in the development agreement?
You can address it at this stage. They did address it in the development agreement. The development agreement on page 6 in your development agreement, it's Exhibit C of the ordinance. And it's number 7, where it says the developer shall provide 3 parking spaces per unit within the property. At least 2 spaces will be provided within each townhome lot, and 1 space per unit will be provided in community parking areas. Our land development code requires 3 spaces per dwelling unit. So it's consistent with the 3 spaces. If the board would like to talk it over with the developer, you can do that at this time. But this is where you set the standards for the development. This is the stage.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Smith, do you or someone here with you tonight want to address the issue of the concerns of parking?
For the record, has done a conceptual development plan and also.
And where would the third space be? If 2 spaces are within each townhome lot, where would the third space per unit? Is that street parking, or do you have lots, or what?
Shed more head, back more head.
Thank you.
They'll be in little separate areas, not necessarily the parking lot.
So when folks have company over, they have parties and that sort of thing, there should be sufficient. Okay.
I live in town.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Okay, we'll call the vote. The motion before us is on ordinance 1616 to recommend approval of that ordinance to City Council. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next ordinance is number 1617, the zoning map amendment. We've heard from both the applicant and staff. We'll open it up for public hearing. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll close public hearing. Do we have a motion?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Pollack?
I'll make a motion to recommend the approval of ordinance number 1617, the zoning map amendment change.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Mr. Sheridan?
Can I clarify, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Does that include the development agreement as recommended by the DRC?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on this item? You guys are awfully quiet today. Okay, we'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Both these items will be considered by the City Council at the March 2nd, 2015 meeting at 6:30 in these chambers. Good luck with your project. Okay. Next item on our agenda is discussion items. We don't have anything listed. Does anyone have any items we need to discuss tonight? Okay. Our future meeting dates are January 24th? I'm sorry. Yeah, February 24th, March 10th, and March 24th. Do we know if we have any items?
We do not have any items for the February meeting. There may be items for the March.
Okay. And as always, if you know that you can't attend one meeting, please let Patty know as soon as possible so we make sure that we'll have a quorum. If there's nothing else, do we have a motion to adjourn? Second? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned.